Chris Jericho might be the Tom Holland of the Terrifier cast. Let's talk a little bit about why. Welcome to the page you are currently watching. Subscribe, if you want. Today we're talking about professional wrestler and circus clown Chris Jericho. The latter there is not true. Terrifier fans might remember that he was in the after the credits scene for the previous film. It was also recently confirmed that Chris would be returning for Terrifier 3. But it doesn't seem like he's gonna be in the movie long, considering this brand new quote from MovieWeb. During an exclusive interview with MovieWeb, Chris Jericho talked a little bit about his new documentary, The Death Tour, as well as his upcoming appearance in Terrifier 3. Jericho says, "I have seen the script, I have already kind of done the prep and prosthetics, the filming that they do when they're taking molds of your face, and all this sort of thing. So suffice to say, I don't have a good, I don't last very long. But it's gonna be great. If you love Terrifier 2, you're gonna love Terrifier 3 because it's even better. It ups the ante even more." Chris, man, you're just giving away the opening kill here, my dude. I've been theorizing for a little while that Terrifier 3 will pick up right where Terrifier 2 left off at the sanitarium. Why am I speculating that? Because Terrifier 2 did the same thing to the first Terrifier. We picked up right where we left off from that first film. And considering that the original ending to Terrifier 2 had to be changed where Chris Jericho was somehow covered in blood, he probably got killed at the ending of this one, it seems like we're finally going to see an actual death for his character. Opposed to him just picking from the zombie platter. I mean, I love a good zombie platter all day, but I want to see this pro wrestler get killed by a crazy clown. I'm a simple fan, really. In an interview from a while ago, Chris Jericho actually detailed why they had to change the ending to Terrifier 2 originally. According to Jericho, the ending was too similar to another horror film that had come out in 2021. Talking about why the original ending to Terrifier 2 was changed, Chris Jericho says, "The original scene that I did was the ending of the movie. And in this time frame, another movie came out with the same ending. Damien had to reshoot it, so my part got kind of cut down. But that's fine, it's how it goes. But this is how much time we got spent shooting this movie. Another movie had the same effing idea. But it was a really cool experience because everybody involved is so passionate about this project to make it work. Everyone went the extra mile." Fans were able to deduce via comments from Damien Leone that this was Malignant from James Wan. I'm about to spoil Malignant, so if you have not seen that movie, you might want to skip this next part. The big twist in Malignant is that the final girl character you've been following this entire time actually has this tumor baby in the back of her head that has been the killer the entire time. And the original ending to Terrifier 2 saw Victoria Hayes basically crack open the back of her head and Art the Clown climbed out. We've never actually seen that footage, if there is any, but that was apparently how Terrifier 2 was supposed to end originally. These new comments from Jericho, though, do thicken the plot a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about why. If the opening scene to Terrifier 3 is going to take place right where Terrifier 2 left off, we're gonna have to do exactly what the previous film did with a little bit of a time skip. We'll probably get an opening kill showing Art the Clown coming back to life, but then it'll probably fast forward a little bit to maybe Christmas of that same year, or maybe sometime in the future. There's numerous reasons I'm speculating that, the biggest one being our main characters who actually survived Terrifier 2 got pretty beaten up, man. Jonathan lost his fingers, Sienna got stabbed and whipped with a bunch of knives on a goddamn whip or whatever. Art the Clown is a sadistic MFer, dude. And another thing that's been teased about Terrifier 3 is expanding upon the supernatural elements. Writer-director Damien Leone says there's still going to be plenty of supernatural things. It's inevitable in part 3. Like I said, I'm not ignoring the groundwork that was laid, but there's an artistic way to approach it where it's just not so in your face. Some things are going to be in your face, but you'll understand when you see it. A lot of it's grounded. But yeah, I'm excited. You're gonna see, and it's sickening and hysterical how it picks up and how Art gets out of that situation, if I could say that. Maybe this is a bit of a spoiler, but to see how the Victoria character aids Art the Clown in that journey is sort of just as interesting. So going back to something I said earlier, I think originally in that Terrifier 2 original ending we were talking about, Victoria Hayes did die. But it seems like now she's going to be alive in this next movie, aiding Art the Clown, as Damien Leone literally admits here. This ties directly into another theory I have about Terrifier 3, suggesting that Victoria Hayes will be the bride of Terrifier. You'll remember during that after the credits scene in Terrifier 2, when Vicky is painting her own blood up on the wall, she writes, "Vicky plus Art. They're in love." He might have literally ate pieces of her face in the previous movie, but they're in love. Don't worry about it. I think about how in the last movie, Art the Clown and the little pale girl had that weird relationship the entire time. Could you imagine like a whole family of clowns that killed people? Victoria's like the mom who's making the mashed potatoes, shoving that into somebody's face probably. Art the Clown is sipping on his milk cookies and fingers, and then the little pale girl's like sawing off somebody's foot. You know, typical family activities. This is a Christmas movie after all. It's gotta be a little wholesome. Also, in case anyone was wondering what the Death Tour is, let's talk a little bit about that. The Death Tour is a feature documentary following professional wrestlers on the hardest tour in indie wrestling. Explaining what this is and why it's aptly called the Death Tour, Chris Jericho says the reason why we always call it the Death Tour is it's very grueling. And the reason why it's grueling is you're going up to northern Manitoba in the winter. You're dealing with -30, -40 temperatures. You're traveling over frozen lakes to get to the reservations, and those frozen lakes sometimes aren't as frozen as you want them to be. A lot of the times they're 8-hour drives, 10-hour drives, 15-hour drives. You could get to these reservations, and if there's a death on the reservation, which happens quite often, as we know from watching this film, then the show's canceled. And you'll find that out 5 minutes within getting there. If the show is on, you wrestle in basically a high school gymnasium, and you sleep in there as well. There's a lot of time spent in vans when you're kind of scared to even be traveling in these areas. When you hear the ice cracking when you're driving over it, it's terrifying. Jericho goes on to talk about the influence and the importance of the tour by saying, another thing that really came to be that we never expected when we first started is how influential the Death Tour is to the community, to the kids that come to the shows, the people that come to the shows, because these are very depressing areas. So when they find out that the show is coming to town, maybe that gives them 2 or 3 months to have something to look forward to. It really is very inspirational. You could call it the life tour. Talking about his motivation to tell this story, Chris Jericho says, when the idea came to me to help produce this documentary, I was very much interested in it because I know how important this tour is to a young pro wrestler. Also how important these tours are to the First Nations communities that they go to in northern Manitoba. So to me, it would just seem like a no-brainer to be a very interesting story that we can tell. Jericho also goes on to praise the documentary, saying there are 2 types of documentaries. There's one where the story has already been told, like if you want to make a documentary about John Lennon, for example, his story is beginning, middle, end. We know he's dead, he's gone. This was a documentary that unfolds as we film, and that very much appealed to me as well, because you don't know what you're going to get. We're going to do a documentary, we're going to film for 2 weeks starting next Tuesday. What's going to happen? We don't know. And that was very interesting to me as well. So the whole concept of the documentary was interesting. And then to see what we got once we started filming made things even more exciting. Terrifier 3 drops in theaters this year on October 25th, the same day as The Wolfman from Blumhouse. So us horror fans will be getting a little bit of a Wolf-a-Fire double feature that day. I am very excited. For those of you who can't make it to the theaters though, Terrifier 3 will be on streaming over on Screambox, Bloody Disgusting streaming service, sometime in December, just in time for the holidays. What do you guys think about Chris Jericho being the opening kill for Terrifier 3? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this brand new Terrifier 3 update. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content in the future. Please consider supporting me on Patreon by clicking on the link in the description below, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.